about crowds. Well, at this time in the show, we always show you something that's trending on social media. How about this? You couldn't get
171,000 views, 9,000 views. Those were the YouTube numbers for two pre-tournament press conferences at the 2026 Australian Open. The bigger number belonged to a 20-year-old Filipina who would lose in the first round. The smaller number belonged to the world number 1 Aryna Sabalenka. Her name is Alex Eala. And by the time you finish this video, you will understand exactly why the world number 1 walked into Wimbledon this week, defending her own image, while the number 29 seed walked in carrying an entire country. If you have been in this corner since the Miami semifinal, since the Junior US Open, since before the seeding committee even knew how to spell her name, this channel is built for you. Subscribe and stand with the rest of the Filipino army that has been right about this story from the very start. You already know the Mallorca story. You already know the rankings. So forget all of that for a moment. 5 days before Wimbledon began, Eala lifted her first grass court trophy in Birmingham. 2 weeks before that, she beat world number 2 Aryna Sabalenka in Berlin and ran all the way to the semifinals.
Absolutely stunning performance from Alexandra Eala.
On Saturday, June 27th, she practiced for 2 hours on the Arangi grass and walked into Wimbledon as the first Filipino ever seeded at a Grand Slam. Now place that against the other side of the bracket. While Eala spent the week answering questions about her people, Aryna Sabalenka spent hers answering for herself. On June 27th, The Guardian published an interview with the world number 1 under a headline carrying the word lonely. 3 days earlier, Reuters had quoted Sabalenka admitting she had fallen into what she called a deep, dark hole after her Roland Garros quarterfinal collapse, a loss where she told reporters in her own words,
"Just want to quit tennis right now, but we'll see. We'll see in a few days. Hopefully I'll get back on track."
She said she just wanted to quit tennis right now. British media described her pre-Wimbledon press conference as a grilling. Sabalenka has not said a single public word about Alex Eala or the Filipino fans. And in this story, that silence is the loudest sound in the building. Because while the world number 1 was being asked to defend her personality, the number 29 seed was being asked which Tagalog phrase she wanted to put on the trophy. Start with the number the BBC put on the record in January. Eala's Australian Open press conference pulled 171,000 views on YouTube. Carlos Alcaraz got 29,000. Coco Gauff got 29,000. Aryna Sabalenka got 9,000. The most watched WTA player at the season's opening slam was not the world number 1. It was an unseeded Filipina who had not yet won a single match in Melbourne. Then came the cues. The BBC's tennis reporter in Melbourne described thousands of Filipinos creating a logjam outside Court 6, a 1,500 capacity outer court, with a line stretching several hundred yards through the grounds. And Kia Thaving on BBC Radio 5 Live said it out loud. She could not believe the cues and pointed directly at the scheduling team, a former national number 1 calling out a Grand Slam on national radio in the middle of a tournament. That is not a casual remark. That is an institutional figure publicly noting that the tour has not yet built itself to handle the audience Alex Eala brings with her. The Australian Open's official response on X was an institutional white flag. They said they would take it as a learning. A Grand Slam tournament had just apologized in public for underestimating one 20-year-old's drawing power. By March, the All England club had received the message. Eala arrived at Wimbledon 2026 as the number 29 seed, the first Filipino in the 147-year history of Grand Slam tennis to be seeded at a major. This is not a personal milestone. This is a structural adjustment by the most traditional institution in the sport. Then came Birmingham. June 22, 2026, the Lexus Birmingham Classic Final. Eala beat Nikola Bardankova 5-7-6 to 3-7 to 5 to win her first WTA grass court title. She walked to the microphone for the trophy ceremony. She did not thank her academy first. She did not thank her coach first. She turned to the crowd and said in Tagalog, "Home is the people, not the place. Thank you, my countrymen, for the support. Home is the people, not the place." That is the sentence the entire Filipino army had been waiting for somebody at this level to say into a championship microphone. That is the moment a fan base stopped being a story about a player and became a player story about them. If you have been telling your friends for 2 years that this one was different, that this was not hype but history, Birmingham was the receipt. You were not early. You were correct. 2 weeks earlier in Berlin, she had already removed any remaining doubt about the tennis itself. She beat Aryna Sabalenka, the world number 2, in the round of 16. She beat Aryna in the quarterfinal. She lost the semifinal to Linda Noskova 6-2, 6-4 in 69 minutes. The crowds were no longer chanting for potential. They were chanting for a contender who had just removed a top 2 player from a tournament. And on the other side of the planet, the world number 1 was unraveling on the record. The Roland Garros quote, "The deep dark hole, the guardian piece." 2 players walking toward the same fortnight. One defending her image, one carrying a country. When you need a verdict on whether something has shifted in this sport, you do not ask a fan. You ask, and Kia Thaving, former British number 1, current captain of the Great Britain Billie Jean King Cup team, longtime BBC tennis analyst who has watched 2 decades of Grand Slam crowds. When Kia Thaving looked at what was happening outside Court 6 in Melbourne, she did not reach for diplomatic language. She reached for disbelief, and she pointed at the scheduling team from a former national number 1 on national radio in the middle of a Grand Slam. And she is not alone. Greg Rosetsky, a US Open finalist, a former world number 4, a Wimbledon mainstay, has indicated this fortnight could be Eala's breakthrough slam, and he cited the Filipino support as part of the reason. When 2 former top 10 voices look at the same 20-year-old and arrive at the same conclusion, the conclusion has stopped being an opinion. The Wimbledon draw may have done Eala the biggest favor of her career. Sabalenka is in quarter 1. Eala is in quarter 3, the same section as Aryna Sabalenka and the returning Serena Williams. The 2 women cannot meet before the final. If Eala wins her opening match against Renata Zarazua, her round 2 opponent could be Serena Williams herself. This is the runway. Sabalenka is not being beaten on court. She is being outdrawn in the grounds, outstreamed on YouTube, and outcued in the scheduling office by a player she will not see across the net unless they both reach the final Saturday. Zoom out further. Tennis has spent its entire modern era organized around Europe and the Anglo-American axis. The Philippines is a country of 117 million people with a diaspora the British government counts in the hundreds of thousands inside the UK alone, much of it inside the NHS workforce that has had this Wimbledon circled on the calendar since the draw dropped. That is not a niche. That is a market the WTA has never had to accommodate before. Watch what happens next. Wimbledon round 1 against Zarazua, a possible round 2 against Serena Williams, then the US Open Series, then the 2027 Australian Open, where you can guarantee Melbourne Park will not be putting her on court 6 a second time. None of this is a fairy tale, and Eala has never pretended it was. In January, in front of those same Melbourne crowds, she lost her Australian Open first round to Alicia Parks after winning the opening set 6-0. She lost early at Roland Garros. She lost early at Bad Homburg just last week. Asked about that Bad Homburg exit by ABS-CBN on June 26th, she did not blame the surface, the schedule, or the attention. She said she thought the conditions were difficult for her that day, and that she did the best she could with what she had. 5 days later, she was lifting the Birmingham Trophy. 9,000 versus 171,000. A logjam outside Court 6. A trophy speech in Tagalog. A top 2 player removed in Berlin. The first-seeded Filipino in the history of the Grand Slams. A world number 1 entering Wimbledon defending the word lonely in a national newspaper. And a number 29 seed entering it defending nothing at all, just carrying a country. Aryna Sabalenka is the best women's tennis player on earth. Alex Eala is the loudest. And at this Wimbledon, on a draw sheet that keeps them on opposite halves until the final Saturday, loudest is the variable nobody on tour has figured out how to solve. Here is the question worth arguing about in the comments. Does Alex Eala make the second week at SW19? And if she does, who becomes the bigger story when the final weekend arrives? The world number 1 defending her ranking, or the number 29 seed with a country marching behind her? If you have been in this corner since the Miami semifinal, since the Junior US Open, since before the seeding committee knew how to spell her name, this channel is built for you. We are the room where the people who saw it first talk to each other match by match all the way through Wimbledon and into the US Open swing. Subscribe and stand with the rest of the Filipino army that has been right about this story from the start.